The most popular Republican in America, it's not Lindsey Graham, it's not Liz Cheney, it's Donald Trump. People on our side of the aisle believe that Trump policies worked. They're disappointed that he lost. And to try to erase Donald Trump from the Republican Party is insane. And the people who try to erase him are going to wind up getting erased.
Lindsey Graham on his buddy, the former president, tonight. In Kevin McCarthy's letter announcing Wednesday's vote to remove Liz Cheney from leadership, he wrote in part, quote, "Each day spent relitigating the past is one day less we have to seize the future." Of course, what do you do if the past includes an effort to overturn a Democratic election? Aaron Blake of the Washington Post points out, quote, "Cheney is in a lot of ways more focused on the future than her party. They're simply trying to salvage the present and pretend the specter of Trump doesn't loom over the next stage in the party's evolution. They're simply ignoring a festering problem and hoping it sorts itself out. Cheney's biggest sin isn't focusing on the past. It's forcing the GOP to account for its future." Back with us again tonight, David Plouffe, former Obama campaign manager, former senior advisor to the president. He also happens to be on the board of directors of the Obama Foundation. And Tim Miller, contributor to The Bulwark and the former communications director for Jeb Bush. Tim, in many ways, oddly, this week to me feels like a period at the end of the sentence that started January 6th. I guess this is happening now, and I guess, is it your impression that GOP going forward is going to be an organization sitting on a foundational lie?
They are, Brian, and I do just have to offer one fact check with my friend Lindsey Graham before I answer that question. It is not really true that Donald Trump is the most popular Republican in the country. You might remember that he lost in November. You've got Susan Collins in Maine, for example. Say what you will about Susan Collins, but Donald Trump got crushed in Maine. Susan Collins won kind of handily. So this notion that Republicans can only win by sticking with Trump is just not true. It's not based in facts. But, look, to answer your question, in short, the insurrection is forever. They've made their choice. It didn't have to be like this. After January 6th, Republican politicians could have taken the party a different route, but they've decided that they are going to stick with the big lie in order to protect Donald Trump's feelings, in order to protect their little slice of this Republican pie, and in order to execute their plan to win going forward through voter suppression and possibly trying to steal the election in 2024. So that is the bet that they made. It didn't have to be this way, but at this point, I think the cake on that is baked.
And, Tim, while I have you, it's been proffered that the greatest uncovered story of these days is the efforts going on in state houses that are quietly, perhaps, aimed at giving them legislatures, Republican-controlled, the ability to overturn state results.
Yeah, look, my colleague at the Bulwark wrote about this, Jonathan Last. The Republican Party didn't do an autopsy, really, but they kind of are. And their autopsy is, what can we do to fix the problem from this past election? The problem, though, wasn't that they lost. The problem was that they weren't good enough at stealing it. The people who are getting punished are Liz Cheney, Raffensperger, Secretary of State in Georgia, local officials in Michigan and other states. And in these red states, they are changing the rules to make it easier next time. And if Kevin McCarthy is the Speaker of the House in 2022, when the 2024 election comes around, there is no reason to believe that the House of Representatives will certify a Democratic victory. So these are the changes that are being made at the state level. You're right, Brian, but also it is going to be what's on the ballot in 2022 at the congressional level.
David, thank you for your patience. I got one for you, and it's from our mutual friend, Eugene Robinson in the Washington Post. He writes, "The greatest threat to our nation's future is not COVID-19 or the rise of China or even the existential challenge of climate change. It is the Republican Party's attempt to seize and hold power by offering voters the seductive choice of rejecting inconvenient facts and basic logic. For the American experiment and people to survive, much less prosper, this iteration of the GOP must fail." David, why should Democrats be concerned every day? Why should Democrats be watchful every day over what's happening in the opposing party?
Well, Brian, it's not just Democrats. It's anybody who believes that we should remain a democracy, not an autocracy. And I think Tim's exactly right. The notion that if the Republicans win back the House in 22 and hold it in 24, and the Democratic nominee for president, whether it be Joe Biden or somebody else, wins, maybe narrowly, that they're going to ratify that election, we're going to have a real constitutional crisis in this country. And everything's up there. What the Republicans are trying to create here is a situation of heads I win, tails you lose. That no matter what the voters say, no matter how elections go, they can try to preserve power. And I think 2022 is going to be about a lot of issues. But our democracy is on the ballot. It was to some extent in 20, but now we've seen all the cards that have been played. And listen, Donald Trump is not the leader of a political party. He is he's a cult leader. And what's surprising to me is this is somebody who ran for president twice and failed to get more than 47% of the vote either time. Black Swan event in 16, he got a narrow electoral college majority. This is not somebody who did well in presidential elections. And if you look at 2020, the real erosion for Trump was in blue-collar areas, in suburban areas. And I don't think at the end of the day, those voters are looking to end our democracy. And that's not hyperbole. So at the end of the day, I think that it's going to cause great problems out there. Hopefully, we're going to win a lot of lawsuits to push back on a lot of these efforts at the state level, but it's going to make voting and registering much more difficult. And the big sin, of course, is they want to put themselves in charge of basically deciding who won elections, not election officials, hack Republican legislators, all to basically coddle Donald Trump's feelings. It is a remarkable thing. Like, we could lose our country because these Republican politicians don't want to hurt Donald Trump's feelings.
David and Tim are both staying with us. I'm just going to fit in a break. When we come back,